Hello learners, welcome to Success Industrial Training Solutions. In this topic, we will understand what process validation is, why it is important in the pharmaceutical industry, and how it has developed over the time. Process validation is one of the most important concepts in the pharmaceutical manufacturing because it ensures that every batch we manufacture is safe, effective, and consistent in the quality. So let's begin step by step in easy way. Now, let us understand the meaning of the pharmaceutical process validation. Pharmaceutical process validation is a documented and systematic approach to prove that manufacturing process works properly and consistently. It means when we run the process using the fixed setting and parameters, the process should produce the same quality product every time without failure of the process. For example, if we manufacture tablet, then each tablet batch should have correct weight, correct hardness, correct dissolution, correct assay, and it should be passed in all quality requirements. So, process validation gives high confidence that the process is capable to produce a product that meet the predefined quality attributes. In simple words, process validation means proof that the process can consistently produce good quality products. Now, let us understand the history of the process validation. Before 1970, validation was not standard practice in the pharmaceutical manufacturing. At that time, industry mostly followed traditional method and experience-based manufacturing. Manufacturers focuses mainly on the testing of the final product instead of understanding and contributing the complete process of the validation. And because of this, there were many problems such as product failure were detected after the manufacturing, leading too late. There was high batch to batch variations. There was no proper standardization. Process control was also very weak. So the main issue was the quality was not built into the process. Quality was checked only at the end, which is risky in the pharma industry. In early 1970, the concept of validation started in the United States. The US FDA introduced the word validation mainly for the sterile product manufacturing. Why did this happen? Because there were serious cases of contamination and product failures, especially in the sterile medicines like injections and parenterals. Sterile products must be completely free from microorganisms, so even a small mistake can cause the serious harm to the patients. In 1978, FDA's current good manufacturing practices, or we also call it as the CGMP, started emphasizing validation as a requirement. And during this period, validation mainly focused on sterilization cycles, aseptic processing, and microbial control systems. So, this was the beginning of the validation in the pharma to ensure the patient safety. In 1980s, process validation became more common and recognized widely. And now validation was not limited to the sterile product only. It expanded to cover almost all pharmaceutical manufacturing steps such as blending, granulation, tablet compression, packaging, and all the stages of the manufacturing. And during this time, industry started creating an important document called as the Validation Master Plan, which is also known as the VMP. And this document is like the full roadmap of the validation activities in the company. Also, the concept of equipment qualification became strong, and this means proving that equipment is working properly before using it in the production. And it included installation qualification, operational qualification, and performance qualification. So during 1980s, validation became a standard practice in the routine pharmaceutical manufacturing. In 1990s, process validation started becoming a global requirement, and not only in the USA. And international regulatory bodies like EMA in Europe, WHO, Health Canada, and many other agencies started including validation in their GMP systems. This was also the time when ICH guidelines started forming the base for pharma standard globally. ICH means International Council of Harmonization. Here, validation started moving from just batch based thinking to a complete quality system approach. An important concept introduced were design space, meaning the safe operation range of the process, Control strategy, meaning how we control critical parameters, and risk-based approach, which means focus more on the high-risk steps. So this period developed the validation as a strong scientific system of the validation. In the 2000, the pharma industry started focusing on the complete life cycle of the process. This means validation is not only proving process during the initial batches, it also includes the entire journey from development to the routine manufacturing. During this time, FDA introduced two major concepts. First one was PAT, that is called the Process Analytical Technology, and second QBD, which we call as Quality by Design. PAT means using tools and monitoring systems to check the process in the real time. For example, sensors that monitor the moisture during drying or particle size during the milling. And QBD means designing the process in such a way that quality is built in from the beginning, not checked at the end. So this stage helped companies improve the process understanding and reducing the process failures. Now, the most important milestone came in 2011. In 2011, FDA released a new guideline called Process Validation General Principles and Practices. This guideline clearly explained the validation is not one-time activity. Earlier companies followed a validation and forget approach. But FDA introduced a modern method called as life cycle approach, which include three stages. Stage one was process design. Here we design the process based on the research and development knowledge. Stage two is a process qualification. Here we prove that equipment and process work successfully at commercial level. And in the stage three, that is continued process verification. Here we continuously monitor the process during the routine production to make sure it stays in the control. And this model shows that validation continues throughout the product life, and it also encourages continuous monitoring, trending, and improvement of the process. From 2015 onwards, validation becomes aligned globally. In 2015, EU GMP Annexure 15 was revised to match the FDA lifecycle approach. And also organizations like WHO, PICs started promoting the lifecycle validation concept. In recent years, process validation is focusing more on data integrity, risk-based validation, continuous manufacturing, automation, and digital monitoring. Today, industries are also expanding advanced technologies like artificial intelligence for predicting failures, machine learning for trend analysis, and real-time release testing, which also called as RT-RT. So overall, process validation is now more significant, more scientific, digital, and improvement focused. Now we will discuss. You may think why we need to study the history of the process validation. What is the requirement to know the history of this process validation? So this history is important because it helps us to understand how validation evolved from the simple concept to the strong structured system. Earlier, quality was checked only after manufacturing, but now validation ensures that quality is built and maintained at each and every stage of the manufacturing process. It also shows that validation practices are developed because of patient safety incidents, regulatory improvements, and advancement in the technology. So, understanding this evolution helps pharma professionals follow validation correctly and maintain high quality standards. That's the end of this section on the process validation and its history. In the next part, we will learn the types of the validation and practical approaches followed in the pharmaceutical industry.